Hello, friends, and welcome to another one of our March break streams. So we are going to be sharing with you another one of our amazing habitats here at the aquarium. And we're so excited to share with you our Great Lakes habitat and actually watch a feed for them. Now, before we get started in seeing the animals, I would like to share with you all about our March break lessons and also our land acknowledgement. So we are sharing with you lots of different feedings and habitats, and you can share lots of your information with us, and we love to hear what you have to say. And I am also going to share with you our land acknowledgement. Just give me a moment. Ripley's Aquarium of Canada acknowledges that we are on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaty, signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. Today, the meeting place of Toronto, also known as Tukaranto, meaning the place in the water where the trees are standing, is home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we're grateful to work on this land. So I am happy to share with you that we are learning all about Lake's habitat today, and I am going to share with you our friends, Toki and Angie, who are going to be showing us the view from below. Hello and welcome.
Hey there. Good morning, folks. I hope you're having a good start to your day. I am Toki. Thank you for the introduction, Danielle. And for you friends today, I am going to talk about our paddlefish, those fish over there. Our paddlefish are found in our Great Lakes habitat. I'm going to give you a good zoomed out view for now. Actually, we're going to move on to the top view because we're about to feed the paddlefish, and this is what happens. So yeah, we use a ladle for them, and yeah, we just put the food in. I've been told that we are feeding them mysis today, and you'll notice that this food is very unusual compared to our the typical food that you would see our animals eat. But yeah, we'll see let's wait for them to put the food in, and I'll talk about it a bit more. Yeah. So to give you a bit of information as to how we prepare food for our paddlefish, we just take water from the Great Lakes habitat from the tank itself. We put it in the container filled with the food. You can see that container in the view right there. We'll mix it a little bit. We want to make sure that the food gets mixed in with some water so that it spreads out nicely. And then we just put the food in. We use a ladle, as you can see, and we've attached that ladle onto the end of a really long pole. We do try our whenever we're feeding the paddlefish, we do just do it at the top. We don't want to be. We don't need to go in the water, and I'll explain why. For some of the fish in this habitat, we do need to go into water. I'll show some example of that fish that we need to feed underwater later on. But yeah, as I was mentioning, these paddlefish they do live in the Great Lakes habitat. A lot of the fish that we have in this habitat, they would be found in the Great Lakes. They are types of fish that would be swimming in the Great Lakes, as its name suggests. Aside from paddlefish, we have some sturgeons in this habitat right here. Oh, we have one of our big ones right here. That's a sturgeon. And I just wanted to put the focus on our paddlefish just to show you how they eat. Okay. As I am showing you how they eat, I just wanted to share some information about the paddlefish. This would not be a show with the aquarium if we don't talk about fish at all. So, obviously, one thing that's very unique about the paddlefish is if you look at their head, they have a very long nose from the looks of it. For the paddlefish, that is called their rostrum, and for a lot of fish, the tip of their head is also called a rostrum. Now, the way paddlefish eat is that they are ram suspension filter feeders, meaning they need to be swimming forward so that they look like they're constantly ramming their head into the water. And then when water that holds their food goes into their mouth, as you can see there, their gills will actually be removing the food from the water, and at the same time, their gills will be taking the oxygen from the water. It's they're good at multitasking based off of that. Now, that's not the only cool thing about a paddlefish. One of the interesting facts about them is they, on their rostrum, have a lot of electroreceptors. That name or that word might be familiar for you friends, electroreceptors, because those are the parts of a shark that they would use to try and sense electricity off of other animals living underwater with them. So paddlefish, they have electroreceptors as well, and they have a lot of it because it's concentrated on their paddle or on their rostrum. And as you can see, their rostrum extends really far. Now, another cool fact about the paddlefish is that their feeding method it's very similar to some other sharks, such as the basking sharks and the whale shark. Basking sharks and whale sharks they like to eat their zooplankton. Our paddlefish here, as you can see, they love their zooplankton, and their paddle actually helps them with eating their food. Their paddle, as they swim forward, helps them with pushing the upper part of their head upwards, and then it also helps filter their food or siphon their food into their mouth. So it's multi-purpose as well. Again, they're really good at multitasking. Now, I've been comparing paddlefish a lot to sharks. One to add to that comparison, by the way, paddlefish they're actually known to have cartilage for bones. Most of their bones are made of cartilage. I believe only the bones near their head or around their head are ones that are not made of cartilage. So that's one other thing they have in common with sharks. If you look at their tail and how their fins are made or how it's distributed around their body as well, it's very similar to how sharks and their fins and their tail are made or are positioned around their body as well. So these are just a few things that sharks and paddlefish have in common. And again, I have been comparing them a lot, but they are not closely related at all. The traits that the paddlefish have that I've highlighted, which are similar traits that some sharks would have. These are just examples of convergent evolution. Friends, convergent evolution is basically means different animals that are not complete, that are not closely related at all, having or developing similar traits. Mainly because these traits are really good at helping these animals survive. So just think of the cartilage for bones, for example. Having cartilage for bones will help these animals be more flexible, be less dense underwater. That'll help them with their swimming. It just means that these characteristics are so helpful for these animals. And just to share with you, friends, the only thing that the paddlefish and the sharks have in common is that they are fish. That is it. Aside from the fact that they're all fish, they are very not very closely related at all. These paddlefish, along with the sturgeons, actually, they are very prehistoric animals, or um, they've been around Earth for a very long time, and the shape of their body right now and the parts of their body right now up to today is very similar to how their ancestors looked like and what their ancestors had on their body and what their ancestors' shapes were like. They're really interesting animals. Now, I was gonna mention funny story. I know I compared the paddlefish to sharks a lot, but if anything, a lot of people would often mistake them for whales. I've had a lot of kids come here to the aquarium, and whenever they see the paddlefish eat their food, they would say, "Oh, it's a whale." It's not a whale. These paddlefish they live in the Great Lakes. All right. Um, it's time to move on to the conservation part, folks, and a few things to mention. I know I told you that these fish they would be found in the Great Lakes, but unfortunately, paddlefish and the sturgeons we can't find them in the Great Lakes anymore. Specifically, paddlefish they are considered to be extirpated in the Great Lakes, meaning they were once observed swimming in the Great Lakes. Say, for example, in Lake Huron. I believe the last sighting of paddlefish were in Lake Huron, but we can't see them swimming in the Great Lakes anymore. We haven't found them since 19. We haven't seen them in Lake Huron since 1917. It's been that long. Currently, paddlefish would be found in the Mississippi River in the United States of America. Now, the sturgeons, they are a bit of an unusual case where they are still they can still be found in Canada, but not in the Great Lakes anymore. Sturgeons right now, I believe we can only find them in three places. south of the Hudson Bay. Near one is in the south of the Hudson Bay. One is near the St. Lawrence River, or around the upper portion of the St. Lawrence River, and I believe there are some sturgeons in Alberta as well. But again, these fish they used to be able to be sighted or found around the Great Lakes, around Ontario, mainly because these are types of fish that need to keep that whenever they need to reproduce, they would want to swim around the lakes and rivers upstream. They would want to swim upstream to try and find a really nice habitat where they could lay their eggs. Some of the things that they look for would be the right sediment, where soft sediment to lay their eggs in. They want to have clean water. They want to have a lot of oxygen in their water, and they don't usually lay their eggs in really deep waters. Some they can, but they prefer to lay their eggs in more shallow waters. Another issue for these animals is that they are long-living animals. They For paddlefish and for sturgeons, they can live very similar. They can live as long as humans, similar years to humans. And I know that sounds cool, but there is a downside to that. For long-living animals, that usually means the age of their maturity, the age where they can lay eggs. It would take for them really long to reach that age. Most of the time, they get caught before they can even lay their eggs. One of the issues that's plagued these animals as well is the fact that they are really good trophy animals. Say, for example, the sturgeons. We have a lot of sturgeons swimming around here. If one of the big ones swim by, so I'll show them to you. I'll just move here actually because I can see it. This is one of our big sturgeons right now. It's about 4 feet in length. And just like with the paddlefish, they are good trophy fish, so people hunt them or fish for them for that reason. Um, in the earlier years as well, about 50, 60, maybe even 100 years ago, these sturgeons, they've been observed to swim in big numbers. Also the paddlefish, but the sturgeons and the paddlefish, since they get really big, they were considered to be pests in a way because they end up destroying the fishing gear of fisher people. So us humans, we ended up hunting them because we thought that they were pests, unfortunately. And from then on, we used their meat. I believe people smoke sturgeon meat. I believe people still catch paddlefish for their meat as well. I believe in the United States of America, they can turn their meat, the paddlefish, into some sort of a steak because they go really big, like I said. And we also catch these fish for their eggs. We turn them into caviar. Those are some of the issues that have plagued these animals. Another issue that's been harming these animals is the fact that since they need to swim upstream to lay their eggs to find a good habitat for their eggs, we humans like to put dams in place to slow down the movement of water or to keep water in an area. We like to move. We like to make a lot of barriers, and that could also act as a barrier for these animals. So these are some of the reasons why currently their population is dwindling, sadly. But we know that but right now we do have some government agencies that are trying to find ways to help these animals out. There has been efforts into trying to help these animals reproduce in a laboratory, and just once their babies have hatched, we end up releasing their babies back into a river or into a lake. These are some of the things that as humans we are doing right now to help them out. But at this point, folks, just looking at the time, I'm going to end my talking part here. If you have any questions, we will answer them.
All right, so we do have some questions. Our first one is, are sturgeons a type of catfish?
That is a great question. Let's find a sturgeon that we can use as an example. We have some sturgeons over there. They like to eat the leftovers of the paddlefish. Now, some people believe sturgeons are similar to catfish because if you look underneath their face there, it'll swim back again. You'll see mustache-looking parts of their face that's very similar to a catfish. Just to clear things up, sturgeons and catfish are not at all closely related, aside from the fact that they are both fish. They are not catfish at all. For the sturgeons, their mustache-looking parts on their face are called barbels, and they actually use it to sense things as well. They can taste things with it. They can feel things with it, and yeah, they're not closely related to catfish at all.
All right, thank you. Our next question is, how large can these animals grow?
Well, interesting fact about these two fish is they're some of the biggest, so they're some of the largest freshwater fish in Ontario or in Canada in general. Say, for example, paddlefish. There's been reports of paddlefish reaching, and take this with a grain of salt, but there's been reports of a paddlefish reaching the size of a pickup truck. If you think about the length of their paddle and the body, it can definitely extend the length of a paddlefish. So yeah, there's been reports of them reaching the size of a pickup truck. For the sturgeons, they can reach a length of about 2 meters. I believe the largest sturgeon we ever found in Canada was in British Columbia. I think it was a white sturgeon, and yeah, it reached a length of about 2 meters. But the biggest sturgeon we've ever found all over the world apparently was found in Russia, which is about 20 feet in length. Take that with a grain of salt as well. But yeah.
Oh, those are some big fish. All right, our next question is, what is the paddle used for on a paddlefish?
So again, the paddle on a paddlefish is multi-purpose. It's for lifting their head up as they're swimming forward. It's also for siphoning their food into their mouth, the zooplankton, the really small animals, to help it move into their mouth. And it has a lot of electroreceptors for sensing all the other animals that they might want to eat in their water.
Wow. Our next question is, what else lives in the Great Lakes habitat, like in their natural habitat?
Well, aside from the fish that I've highlighted, you will find a lot of catfish in the Great Lakes. You'll find some fish like bluegills or walleyes and pikes. Also, the gars, by the way, we have a spotted gar over there. The spotted gars are still alive or swimming in Ontario, but their numbers are dwindling. We can find spotted gars on the northeastern part of Lake Ontario, actually. So it's somewhat close to us. You'll also find some American eels in the Great Lakes. So yeah, a bunch of fish.
Right, excellent. And our last question is it still okay to fish in the Great Lakes?
That is a great question, and it's totally fine to fish in the Great Lakes. However, fishing in the Great Lakes or fishing in Ontario, it's highly regulated. You need to have a license to be able to fish. You need to follow the right season as to when you can catch your fish. It is something that we are still allowed to do. These strict regulations for fishing were brought about because sometime in the 1950s, a few years ago, around that time, the fishing industry in the Great Lakes collapsed. It experienced a really bad downfall, and ever since then, we've tried our best to add strict regulations to ensure that our fish would still be available in the Great Lakes for the future. But yeah.
All right, thank you so much for sharing all of that with all of us. So I'm just going to do our wrap up. So thank you all so much for sharing and learning with us today. If you have any comments or you want to share more, you can visit us here are our social media handles. Also, we are located in downtown Toronto in Ontario, Canada. Please feel free to come and visit us. It's Ripley's Aquarium of Canada as well. And join us for our next stream on another one of our amazing animals here at the aquarium during our March break program. Thank you so much for visiting with us today, and I'm going to give you a big bye. So see you next time. Bye, friends.